Trigger warning, this episode talks about STDs and briefly mentions SA.
Story of my life, just hustling flow, baby. To pimp a butterfly, I'm hustling flows, baby. Shit funny, roll with the jokes like a roast, baby. Now that's the end of my speech to this toast, baby.
Guys, it's Victoria, and I'm here with Olivia. Olivia is an advocate and a speaker. She's an advocate for herpes, and I would like for you all to meet her. First, I would like to say thank you to Olivia for being here. I know it was a little bit last second, but I've been watching your content, and I thought you'd be the perfect person to have on my channel called the Silence Speaks Now podcast. And I really love your content, and I would like for my audience to meet you. So, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so my name is Olivia Aaliyah Hill, and I'm 26 years old. I'm from Oklahoma, and I unfortunately got genital herpes at the age of 16, my second time ever having sex. I started sharing about it online. People started being very receptive to it and reaching out to me, and that is how I am here, and you found me.
Could you tell us like more details about the story, like how it first started and
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, my story started in July of 2016. I was actually talking to this guy. He was a few years older than me. He was 20 years old at the time. And, we're texting back and forth. I was interested in him, he was interested in me. And we decided that we were going to meet up. But as I just said, he was older than me and I was 16. We couldn't link up the organic way. So one day we met up in the mall parking garage and we did the do, like young people do, you know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, like 3 days after that, intercourse event had happened, I woke up and I started feeling really, really sick. Like I had flu like symptoms. My lymph nodes were swelling in my neck and my groin. And I also had these sores that were multiplying by, it seemed like the minute. So I knew that, it seems that I've caught something, but like anybody that gets something like herpes, they're in denial in the beginning. So as a 16-year-old girl, I was trying to hide it from my parents, but unfortunately, due to the pain that I was feeling down there. I was holding in my urine and stuff like that. Sorry if this is very graphic, but I was holding in my urine and I was standing in the kitchen. My mom was cooking up something and my urine expelled out of my body. And that was because I had been holding it for so long. If you hold your pee, you're going to pee on yourself. So my mom was kind of like, "What is wrong with you? Like, like, why did you just, like, what just happened?" She's saying all these things to me. And I immediately start crying. And I'm like, "Mom, like, something is happening down there. I need to be seen." So she took me to the doctor on July 19th, 2016. I'll never forget it because that was her birthday. And the doctors immediately looked down there and was like, "This is herpes. We could swab it, but this is herpes." And that's the story of how I got herpes, me finding out about it. The journey after that was long but rewarding. I quickly kind of got out of the mood of being sad and depressed and like, "Oh my God, no one's going to love me," just because of my own personal experience with finding somebody that did accept me for it. And, we rocked out with our situation for a little minute. And then once I started to speak with other people about it and be honest in my own regard, I found that many people were actually accepting of me. So that's kind of my story, how I got it, and my journey up before I start advocating about it.
yeah, that's pretty young. I really can't imagine being that young, and I know it's hard to tell your parents stuff like that, and it's like, oh gosh, it's really, but I am glad that you were able to speak up to your parents, because I'm pretty sure some people still probably wouldn't even want to discuss it, but at some point you pretty much had to, because it's
Yeah, I mean, I was forced, like if that hadn't happened, I probably would have continued on until, my adulthood and just trying to hide it. I get so many people that reach out to me and they are in that predicament where they are young and they don't tell their parents at all, or even people in their 20s, 30s that are like, "I want to tell my family," but I'm scared. And it's like, you don't even want to tell the people that you're related to. So I understand, the stigma when people don't want to tell people that they want to get involved in date.
Yeah, it is a stigma. So, what made you decide to become a speaker and an advocate?
If I'm being quite honest, when my parents did find out about it, they were hot. They were pretty upset and they wanted me to be quiet. They wanted that mentality of what happens in this house stays in this house. And I remember just like, being 16, being in church, and I had a homegirl that I was cool with at church, and I wanted to tell her so bad, so I did. And I remember my mom like, walking in on me telling her, and my mom was furious. She was so upset. And I had a very different childhood growing up with parents that were very, very old. Like my parents are old. I'm 26 right now, y'all. My parents are 82 and 90 years old, just to give you, yeah. And they're living, they're doing fine. So just to give you just an outlook of what I'm trying to say. So I have parents that were very old school in the way that they thought and everything that they did. So when my parents were telling me not to tell people, I had this realization that the reason I got this is because nobody ever told me about it. I have to tell other people about it. So my first story was telling, a friend in church. I confided in her. And then as I got older, as like time started going along, 17, 18, I started to hear people in groups talk about how they didn't use condoms. People would be so comfortable being like, oh, yeah, I don't use condoms. I don't like condoms. And I don't know what changed in me that, or what would trigger it in me. But every time I hear people say, I don't use condoms, it would bring something up in me to be like, you have to tell your story. So something about hearing people be like, so open about not protecting themselves, and then and me knowing that they didn't know that this could happen to them made me speak up about it. So really just rebelling against my parents. They didn't want me telling anybody, so I started telling everybody. And then like I said, hearing people being like so confident about not using condoms, I had to let them know. And then lastly, the guy that I got herpes from was also dealing with another girl at my high school. And, I knew the girl. We used to be friends. We weren't friends anymore. So I thought, maybe I should let her know because I know she's dealing with him and she probably doesn't know that he has this. So I told the young lady, hey, like, I know that you were messing with so and so. He gave me herpes. You should probably go get tested. This young lady, in return, ended up telling her group of friends, and it spread all over my high school. So once the rumor mill started going around my high school, I realized, hey, I got to start speaking up because this one time it came back to me that somebody said I had HIV, and I said, hold on. Pump the brakes. Nothing against anybody that does have HIV, but I have HSV is a difference. So I realized like you got to tell your story and get ahead of it before you allow people to tell your story for you.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a great message. So, before you were diagnosed with it, did you know much about herpes? Like, because you were 16.
No, I knew that, like, I knew about STDs. I knew that they were real. I knew that you could get them, but I didn't know what they looked like. I didn't know, you could get them still with using protection. I didn't know that you could get them when somebody wasn't having something on their parts and stuff like that. And people always ask me, well, didn't you have sex ed in high school? And I'm like, I did, but guess what? I had sex ed the school year after I got herpes. You know what I'm saying? So that wasn't going to help me anyways, and I think even with all the education that I spread, it doesn't matter how much somebody is informed about something, how much somebody tries to protect themselves. The bottom line is, if you sleep with somebody that has something and your immune system is susceptible enough to get it and your body gets it, you're going to get it. If you're having sex, you're at risk of getting it. The only way to solid, ironclad, know that you're not going to get anything is to be abstinent. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's the number one way for sure. Um, can you tell me some common misconceptions about herpes?
yeah, that you are a promiscuous man or woman if you get herpes, like you were just out, you were just sleeping around with so many people. Like I mentioned earlier, a misconception about herpes is that you can't get it if you're using protection. So, oh, as long as I wrap up, I'm clean and clear. Condoms don't 100% protect you from anything. Um, I think the biggest one is that people that get it are nasty. I think that's the biggest one. Like, oh, like they're nasty. They got that stuff. They're just nasty. And it's like people are born with herpes. People get herpes their first time ever having sex. People are taken advantage of and they get things. So, those are some of the big three that I see. Oh, and then one more. If I have herpes and I have a boyfriend, he automatically just has it too. That's not how STDs work.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you said this before. So you have herpes too, or
Yeah, yeah. I have HSV too. I have HSV two, which is herpes simplex virus two of the genitals. HSV one is orally, but you can also get HSV one genitally if somebody has it orally and they go down on you and they pass it to you that way. Or in return, if someone has HSV one genitally and you guys have sex, they can give you HSV one that way too. But I have HSV two.
okay, yeah. I've actually seen a little bit of discourse between the one and the two. Like sometimes some people be a little bit prejudiced towards one. And
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes, people are like, oh, it's just I always hear this. When it comes to HSV1, I always hear it's just a cold sore.
"Hmm,
And oh, it's just a cold sore. No, it's just herpes simplex virus one. And people like to dumb HSV1 down, but say the HSV2 is just so terrible. But they're the same virus, different locations.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. And also, kind of something I didn't really like, or, but people's vernacular about it, like they'll be like, clean, like I'm clean, he's not clean. I'm like, I'm not really liking that term.
Yeah, because it's like having herpes doesn't make you dirty and not having it doesn't make you clean. I literally say that all the time. Like people's perceptions of what someone is based off of an STD are very screwed up these days in our generation. And I'm really glad that you did bring me on here to talk about it because I think that the herpes stigma will forever stay at an all-time high until people that actually have it start being honest about actually having it.
Yeah. And, doing my research with herpes, it's one of the least, like, I don't know, ones that kind of affect you, like least damaging ones, because like with the STIs and stuff like that, untreated, that can mess your whole body up.
It
But
definitely can long-term effects.
yeah, with herpes, it's like okay, you get it, whether you treat it or not, or whether you find out years later, that's not about to hurt you in any type of long term effects and stuff like
Yeah, it's not terminal. It's not terminal. You can't die from having herpes.
that.
There's not any case in the world where that has happened. And even if herpes goes untreated, nothing really happens to you either. Because the treatment of herpes, if you want to get into that, the treatment of herpes is just a suppressive therapy to keep your symptoms at bay. It has no effects on, making you better or curing you or anything like that.
Hmm. Once people hear, uncurable or permanent stuff like that, they're just like, oh, heck no. But it's like, okay, it's not deadly. You can live a full life. You can have a full love life. You can have kids or whatever. It's
And
just,
there's like 8 or 9 types of herpes. A lot of people have herpes when they were kids. They had chickenpox. And as they get older, they have shingles. Those are two types of herpes that aren't talked about. Those are part of the herpes zoster virus, shingles and chickenpox. And it's like it's still herpes. There's different kinds, different ways to get it. I just want people, like you said, like you've been doing your research. People need to do their research about it and really understand the origin story of it, where it comes from, how it works, how it survives in the body, how it can lay dormant for years. Many people get herpes and it lays dormant for years. They never know that they have it. By the time that they do figure out that they have it, they end up not knowing who they got it from because they've had so many partners over the years. And then, a lot of children get it under the age of 5 because grandmas, aunties, people want to kiss on babies. Keep your mouth off kids. Y'all giving kids HSV1 before they can even say their first words.
yeah, yeah, that's so true. Um, okay, so, um, now there's something a lot of people don't know about me, and I've shared it with very few people, but um, it's a lot. Uh, it's just something I want to get off my chest, and I want everyone to know, with the Silence Speaks Now podcast, this is something that, a lot of people just is, STDs is something that people try to keep silent, try to keep hidden, don't want to talk about. So I would like to say, I myself was diagnosed with herpes type 2 around 5 years ago. Um, so the way that it happened, I I went to the doctor for something totally unrelated because I wanted to get a breast reduction. So my normal doctor that I go to, they were saying, we don't do referrals here, but I'm going to take you to this, get this other doctor. And with that doctor, she was saying, since you're having back pain, I don't want to go straight to a reduction. I'm going to do a blood test. And with that blood test, we test for everything under the sun. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let me rule out anything else. But so, fast forward to the next week after I take my blood test, she's going through, she was like, everything's looking good. But she got to that last paper. She was just like, okay, everything's good, good, good. She was like, oh, herpes. You have herpes. And then she almost kind of just kept going down. Like, it was like, oh, okay, it's just herpes. She was like, you have her. I was like, wait, 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 hold on. She was like, yeah, herpes. She was like, you were introduced to the virus, but we can't tell you when you got it or anything. She was like, do you have sores and stuff like that? I was like, no. She said, how old are you? I was like, I think at the time I think I just turned 22. So she was like, yeah. She was kind of like real nonchalant about it. She was saying there was a it showed in my blood like I had the antibodies for it. So that's how I found out. And, she kind of reassured me. And she was like, when you have a kid, just make sure, when you're pushing the baby out, there's no outbreaks. The kid can have outbreaks. It was a lot of information coming to me all at once because I didn't come there to, I wasn't suspecting that. I was trying to get my breast reduction. I was not, for everything to be good, and then next thing you know, you have an STD. That was a shock to me, but fortunately for me, fast forward 5 years later, the whole 5 years, I've been asymptomatic. So I don't get I don't get the sores. I don't get the tingling sensations everyone's talking about. It's a lot. But I do want to mention years prior when I first got my STD check, I was around 18 years old. And so she went through the list of things they checked for, and I was the one that spoke up. I was like, hey, what about herpes? And that nurse, she was like, oh, we're not checking for herpes. We're not checking for herpes unless you have sores. I was like, can you just still do it? She was like, you would know if you had herpes. And I was like, really? She was like, yes. She's like, I'm not checking unless you got sores. Do you have some sores? I was like, no. And she didn't even do the blood. I didn't know you didn't have to do the blood. You could get it through the blood. She was like, we don't test unless you got sores. Like, she was just brushing me off. And I was just like, wow, ma'am. I'm thinking back to that conversation. I'm like, I could have had a better scope on, like, if I got it done at 18, I could have had a better scope of like tracking this stuff. So it's like that. So it's like I had no idea with that, and that was false. I want to tell people that is false information. You can test for herpes through a blood test, or they can swab some sores. So I would like for people to know that. Um,
Thank you so much for coming out and sharing with your platform. That is major.
a lot of people don't know about that. It is such a daunting thing to talk about. Like, I've actually shared stories of like sexual assault and stuff like that, but it's like talking about herpes is just like it's more daunting than that. That I feel like even when you talk about sexual assault and stuff like that, believe it or not, you still get backlash from that. So, but yeah, sometimes some people go straight to victim blaming with stuff like that, and it's like it's a weird thing. You still get backlash with that, but with herpes, it was almost like, you know, I just knew it would be a lot of backlash with that. So I mainly only shared it with very, very close friends. Did share it with my mom. And then, of course, I had to share it with the partners. And I would like to say I've never been declined ever. So I think that was pretty, the partners have been pretty understanding, more understanding than I've, you know, a lot of them were just saying how happy they were that I told them because
That's I get the same well, I got the same response too before I got into a relationship. And I should have shared that when you asked me about misconceptions. I just didn't think about it. But many people think like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna find love. I'm not gonna be able to have kids. And like you said in your story, the doctor just said, make sure you let your doctor know. They'll, make sure you're good during birth. And then, like you said, you've never been rejected. You've never experienced that. And I think that that fear is a big part of the stigma too. People thinking that no one's ever going to love them again. And you can and are worthy of love with having it, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, I'm not sure if you would know, but do you know what it means for like low positive and a high positive? What that means for like the blood test?
Yeah. Yeah. So on the, I'm not sure if it's for the PCR, but when you get your test, there's something called IgG levels, and
Hmm.
it shows up on your test results. You'll probably see like IgG levels, and basically, high or low, there's a range. Some people are on the lower end of the range, and some people are on the higher end of the range. And all that means is how active the virus is in your body, like how high, like, if it's because when we go back to testing, this is like comes all together. A lot of doctors don't like to test for it because the easy way out is, oh, you're having symptoms, you just have it. The doctors can sometimes test you, and something in your body tweaks this high level of herpes in your body, but that level is it's what's the word I'm looking for? It could not be herpes. It's herpes is a tricky virus. So when talking about it, there's so many different things, but there's a high level and there's a low level. So my levels, I think when the last time I checked were like 8.40 or something like that. And that's considered high to somebody that might be at a 1.12, whatever the ranges are. It's a range where you're under, like, you're not on the scale at all. That means you don't have it. But if you're on the scale, it's just the level of activity of the herpes in your body. And the problem with testing for herpes is, like I said, some people their body could trigger something to show these certain levels, and it could be a false positive. The doctors have realized so many people come in and get false positives that it's a fallout on their end. But like you said, asymptomatic people fall short with this because it's like asymptomatic people are going into the doctor so many times and getting denied for a herpes test because they don't have symptoms, because the doctors don't want the fallout on their end by giving somebody a false positive, or the fallout of like your instance. You have it, you don't have any symptoms. It would be very easy for your mind to play tricks on you to say, if I don't have any symptoms, I don't have this at all. And that goes into a deeper level because we all aren't on this certain level of, like confidence in ourselves or education level. So some people might take this different ways, and it is just very difficult not to know for sure unless you have symptoms. But then where does that leave the people that are asymptomatic that are passing it?
Yeah. Hmm.
So yeah, it's just the IgG levels in your body. I need to actually, do my due diligence and learn the correct names for all of this stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. So when they diagnosed me, it was an 8 at the time. But however, since I get, the checkup yearly, now it's at an 11. So I'm not sure what that really means.
So also certain things that you do eat, stress is the number one trigger for it. So if you're stressed, that could raise your levels. If you're eating certain things that trigger you, my triggers are chocolate and stress. How did I find that out? I found out what my triggers were by writing down the dates of my outbreaks, writing down the events that I was partaking in throughout that week prior to getting the outbreak, and the foods that I was eating. And then there was a pattern of stress, finals week, and chocolate. chocolate. And I realized that was what was causing my outbreaks because I just in turn Googled a list of herpes triggers. And that's how I figured it out. So you could be triggering it, the levels in your body. And a lot of people like to talk about holistic things that they can do. And what they're speaking to is taking that level from high to low by changing their diet and taking certain supplements and things like that. Me, that's not my ministry. I'm okay living my life with herpes. I have a boyfriend of many years. I've not been rejected too many times. And even the times that I've been rejected for having herpes, they all double back. I don't know why, but some people want to become undetectable, and that's cool. Like, I support you guys for that, but that's just not my ministry. So yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Also, I guess around the time to help me cope with it, I did end up looking up like who are some famous celebrities that have this, and that list is shocking.
It is. And when I've seen that too, I'm like, why aren't these celebrities speaking out about having herpes? Like, why aren't they using their platform? Is it the stigma for them? Is it gonna ruin their brand? Like, I wonder, like, why do you think celebrities don't speak out about having herpes if so many people, because you know that they have it?
Yeah, I'm just like, wow, it's like some of our favorites are on there and stuff like that. And some people that you just wouldn't think would be on there is on the list. I recommend everybody, if you want to just check. Also, take it with a grain of salt because if you didn't hear from the horse's mouth,
Right. What do they say? The word, like, I don't know if I'm telling the truth now. This allegedly.
I'm just saying there's just a list out there that I
Yeah.
and just take it with a grain of salt. But
I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I keep all of the stuff people tell me confidential, but I can tell y'all for sure. Yes, some of y'all favorite celebrities and stuff, they do have it.
yeah. Um, I'd like to say, as we kind of close out, what is your final message you like to leave with the audience? Your final message. It stumps a lot of people.
It's all good. It's all good. My final message that I want to leave to the audience is to always remember to be yourself and put yourself first. If you don't put yourself first and take care of you, nobody else is going to do it for you. Also, if you are not pouring into yourself, having self care, loving on yourself, you cannot expect anybody else to love you. If you're wanting to be loved, you're wanting partnership with people, you're wanting connection with people, please make sure that you are doing everything for you to put yourself on a pedestal, put yourself on a level so that when that person that you're yearning for meets you at that level, they don't have to be doing all the pouring into you or vice versa. You can kind of put yourself at a level with people to, be equally yoked. So really just make sure that you take care of yourself and put yourself first. A lot of people don't like to spread the word of being selfish, but me, I'm so self. And Olivia being selfish is the reason why Olivia is going to be insanely successful. And my success is happening. It's at a very low level right now, but it's going to be catastrophic. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to project myself past the stars because I was selfish. I put myself first. So that's all I would like to leave with the people, and make sure that you find me at here, the number 2 help official on all platforms.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Olivia. I'd like to just acknowledge your bravery. I love everything that you're doing right now. I really wish there were way more people that are like you. You took the time to dedicate, a big chunk of your life to this, and it's like you're really helping people with speaking out, and then also you're showing your face and you're confident and you're bold with it. That is like my favorite type of people. So I really appreciate that you're helping me as well with this podcast, and just you're helping my mission with just trying to, silence speaks, get it out there, everything that, other generations been sweeping through the rug. I'm here to just get it all out. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank vice versa. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come on this platform. You being brave enough to, make this platform a thing. I wish you the most success in this. I'll always come be a guest, girl. But yeah, like, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I know that you're going to be great. Continue using your platform for all the right things and speaking up. Congratulations on coming out with, your truth today too. But like I said, I appreciate you. I thank you. I can't thank you enough. And I'm very excited to see the podcast
Thank
air.
you so much.
Yes,
Okay, I'll stay in touch with you.
for
Okay.
sure. For sure. Thank you so much, Victoria.
And that's a wrap until the next yap. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for having me, guys.